Symmetry is everything. Don't forget that. Symmetry. Fitness. Yeah. You want to be in the video? Asher, you want to be in the video? So this week, lots of things have been going on, working on lots of very cool things at Design Inc. and features we're working on, different products that are going to be hopefully coming out in the next months or so. All that being said, today had a babysitter snafu. The wife had to go to San Diego for a shoot, and so I am working from home watching the kids, and so I'm taking this opportunity to just do a quick little vlog. This is Asher, my newest, 10 months old. He is precious and beautiful. He's got 3 teeth. They're very cute. Long story short, I haven't documented much of this week. 2 days ago, I spoke at LCAD, which is the Laguna Beach College of Art and Design. My good friends, Jennifer and Amy Hood, are instructors there for a class. If you don't know, they're the ones that designed my brand and logo and were the key feature in the launch of this vlog. So if you haven't watched that yet, go back. I will link it below. But I want to do them a solid and talk to their students about getting into the design industry, what matters in a portfolio, kind of where I've come from and what I've learned working in different size companies and in different capacities and organizations. I'm not going to say much more than that. This is just another week getting at it, doing design, being a dad, and wanted to share that talk with you. Some people in the comments have asked for me to share kind of where I've come from and how I got to where I'm at. This is very much still a process. I feel like I'm still in the beginning of all of this. You know, in the last 10 years, I've been designing, which seems like it was only 2, but in the last 10 years, half of that time was spent being unemployed, doing kind of dead-end print design, and the most recent 5 years has been me evolving into a digital designer, a product designer, a UX designer, whatever you call it. And so I talk a little bit about that in this talk at LCAD. The general narrative and the main message I share in this talk is just to do something. I feel that often designers are looking for this kind of magic silver bullet or this shortcut. And I did the same, but the reality is it comes down to time and work and failure. And I think, you know, this has been a thing I've said in a couple videos and something that Gary Vaynerchuk is talking about a lot. But it just resonates a lot with a lot of the conversations I have with early designers is that you don't need permission. There's no rules specifically in tech and in the web industry. Just going after things and being curious really matters. And I think those that rise to the top and those that win are truly curious. They're the ones that actually have passion and want to go after things. And I think more than anything, that's the only thing that has been success for me. It wasn't my education. It wasn't some secret insight I had. It was more or less me loving design and wanting to learn and explore new areas. This vlogging, I just got an update on my app saying I made 36 cents this month. And I'm not doing this to make money. The nugget of what I'm trying to say is that vlogging and making video content for free is an experimentation, and it's because I enjoy talking about design and I enjoy helping others. It's a general curiosity and wanting to explore and do new things that I think really benefits a creative and an entrepreneur and making a living and developing a career. So I'm going to leave it at that. Watch the video if you'd like. It's a little long. It's probably going to be about 30 or 40 minutes. If you don't want to watch me talk about my past and designers, then feel free to skip this video. But I'd love for you to subscribe. I'll release a video next week, a regular vlog of kind of documenting everyday things. Some exciting stuff coming up. I got Creative South coming up, which I'm pumped at. Have a trip to Catalina, so hopefully doing some more scuba diving and some family time out here in the Pacific. But other than that, just getting after it. Want to say hi? Thank you. This seems like extra formal, being such an intimate environment. So I'm gonna try and be casual because this is a talk I put together for a class in Denver, at UC Denver. I figured I would share some of it because it gives my background and just some kind of core takeaways that I've experienced working in different environments. And then we can open it up and do questions because that's kind of what I prefer anyways. I'm calling this Do Something because that's gonna be what I leave you with and I think is the most important thing, but we'll get back to that. This is kind of an overview of my last 10 years now, I guess. I graduated 2007, 2008, got a job for about a year, and then was unemployed. It was kind of a blunt reality for me, starting a freelance career, because that's what I did, because I didn't have any work. I also picked up photography and then also bartended. So kind of did the 3-job thing until I got an internal design job doing a lot of print work and some branding work. Most of it was like really boring brochures and catalogs and flyers and conference graphics. But it was a good, steady job. I actually learned a lot there about like how to pitch and how to work with as an internal agency. From there, I quit and went to a startup in Temecula, California. We did that for about a year, published some work, and got noticed on TechCrunch, and I immediately quit that job and went to Netflix. And then spent a couple years there working on mobile and iOS apps, and then from there to Google. Spent a couple years at Google building stuff for Android, and now I'm at another startup building a platform for freelancers. At Netflix, my main focus was to work on phone and tablets, mainly iOS and some Android. But one of the first projects I worked on was the launch of all of the original content on Netflix. So a couple years back, they launched House of Cards and Arrested Development and Orange is the New Black. And so this was a different type of content for Netflix. And so I was on the mobile part of the 5 or 6 person team that released all of the new UIs, the new UX experiences, and all the different apps. And how this content would be promoted in merchandise, like the first time they ever promoted content before it was available, as well as how it would evolve across all the different screen sizes with all the different content. So it was a fun, like high-profile project that I was able to work on. I was also able to work on the overall redesign of the graphic user interface. Netflix never really updated to the newer evolution of the operating system, and so it was really out of date, and I kept harping on them that we needed to be more up to date. And so I was a part of the team that kind of reskinned the whole new UI into this darker UI. A lot of this is how it is today, but this is kind of like the movie and the series display page. So this is a visual design project, but nonetheless fun to kind of work on skinning an app at this scale. And then one of the other things is, I don't know if you guys have seen this on tablet, they have it on all the TV platforms, but this kind of gets you in that binge rat hole where you can watch things for 10 hours. It works really well. This project was very interesting because there was a lot of details in this. Like, this isn't anything prolific, but depending on whether this was 10 seconds or 15 seconds or 6 seconds, and depending on what you put here, really made or break this feature. The one thing that I learned, designing at Netflix was how to work with designers. I'm going to jump to like working with companies and clients, but in working with designers, this was the first time I worked on a large design team that was way, way, way smarter than me, that had like things and processes and practices that I've never experienced before. So I was like very much a sponge at Netflix. I had a good friend, Ted Boda, who's at Instagram now. He kind of like showed me the way, and it was a really, really big time of growth for me. One thing that like really stands out this stage of my life is that like no one designs anything. This is like wrong on purpose. Often when I'm looking at new work, I review a lot of portfolios for my job, and it's very hard to understand what one designer contributed to a project. So I think me being on a team at Netflix really taught me that like I can never say like I did this. Like it's almost always a collaborative, and I think it's very easy to want to be almost romantic about like I am the prolific artsy designer that thought of all this. One, that's not true. Like you make lots of mistakes. You're not that smart, because I'm not either. Like you all learn, like you think you're really good and you realize you're not good, and then as you start getting better, then you realize you're really not that good. We're always in the struggle of being better, but there's a level of humility of acknowledging your contribution to a project or to a brand or to a campaign. This is one big thing, and this is critical in working with other people, because if you don't acknowledge this, you're kind of an asshole. Which leads me to being humble. It's very easy to be opinionated. I think it's our responsibility as designers and creatives to be opinionated. We're gifted with the ability to like say that looks good and that doesn't. Like we get it, right? And I think we should have opinions, but I think there's also humility and responsibility of knowing the context. And often if you're on a team of even in classroom environments like this, knowing that everyone brings something to the table and having some respect and humility and listening and learning before you speak. This was critical. There were a couple meetings I went into at Netflix and I was like, this is shit, we need to fix it. What are you guys doing? Like, oh, actually we have this issue and this constraint and we can't do this and we can't do this. I'm like, oh, it's a lot harder. Like, I feel like a jerk now for for calling you guys out. Actually, it's funny, like when you start to like see different teams, and you guys will see this once you start your careers, there's always a new person that comes onto a team and they're always the first to like shit on an old product or an earlier version of the team that's there. And there's always someone there that was like, yeah, that was me. Like I did that. And then you feel like an asshole. And so always be humble, at least in your context, but it's usually best to learn. This is another thing. That design is a craft, right? What we do, and so you need to be efficient. Like anyone that's a craftsman of their tool is a craftsman because they've made a lot of mistakes and they've done it long enough that they're efficient. This takes time, but I really learned how to design very efficiently and to not make mistakes, to not get distracted in my design. And part of that is tools. Really becoming familiar with the tools that work best for you in designing. How you manage your time and when you're best designing, like when you're most efficient, and tactics, which I'll get into. It's more like the soft skills of design. So always like design a lot because it's gonna make you better. So for Google, I jumped from Netflix to Google to get back down to Southern California. I was up north. My wife was pregnant with our second kid. I wanted to get back down here since it was so expensive and difficult to live in the Bay Area. But I joined that team. And worked for analytics in Irvine, and then after about a year, moved to the Android team. And in Android, I worked on a product called Android Auto, which was kind of the connected experience inside your car, and the way you can work with things on your phone while driving. So this is a little promo video that like makes this seem like very complicated and fancy, and then we'll go into...
Cars are integral to the way that people live their lives today. We use cars for taking our kids to school, we use our cars for commuting to work, but when we look at cars today, they're fundamentally disconnected vehicles.
People don't want to check their phones at the door when they get behind the wheel. So we partnered with auto manufacturers and technology partners to figure out the best way to bring Android into the car. Today we're announcing Android Auto, which extends the Android platform into the car. Android Auto combines the best of both worlds. You get the connected apps and services on your smartphone with the physical controls that were optimized for driving in your car. We had to go back to the drawing board and really take an experience that was designed for a smartphone and break it down to its bare essentials.
We focused it down to the features that the user really needs within the driving space. We've made Google Maps really easy to use for the car. We've got nice, easy to access touch targets and a simplified interface. The voice technology that we're using within the car is super conversational.
Your hands are on the wheel, your eyes are on the road.
Set a reminder to get gas on the way back to work. Pick up my dry cleaning. Remind me to get tickets on the way home.
Google brings you just the right information at just the right time. So when you set reminders while you're driving, your phone will remind you later on, even if you're outside the car. Android developers will soon be able to create entirely new experiences for the car.
We're really excited about this opportunity because for us, this is really very much at the beginning. And we're really going to go on a long journey with this.
Cool. So that is the team I worked on for a good 2 years. This now was one of their newest releases, which is Android Auto on the phone. So essentially, once I got there and was ramped up on the team, they said, look, we've got this great experience. You can plug in your phone, use it in your car, but these cars are slow to come out. It takes 7 years for a car to integrate technology. And so it was very hard for us to release new features and improve the app because it was very tied to the releases of different OEMs in the automotive space. So they wanted to say, look, we have the phone, we own the operating system as Android. How do we simplify the experience of your phone similar to what we've done in the car, just on your phone itself? So this is Android Auto for mobile. When I was saying this in the last class I spoke to, but like when you look at it, it's literally like 5 screens, and it was like a year and a half of my life. Which seems asinine that it takes that long. But the reality is there's a ton of detail in getting all of these things on screen in a compliant way with different laws, with different regulations from the car industry itself. It's cool to see this because we were doing eye tracking software and simulators and like all this crazy hardcore research stuff to make sure that we're doing this right. So this was like really, really complicated systematic design that I've never attacked before either. And with that, like designing for companies was more this season of my life. Like I learned how to work with different designers, but learning how to work with like engineer leads, project management, pitching to directors, as a whole, something new to me at Google. And the biggest thing that I learned is like most of my success as a designer was 80% selling and 20% design. Unfortunately, there is bad design that gets sold really well, and that's why you see so much bad design in the world. But designing the right thing was easy. Selling it and explaining why it reinforced, the business objectives or the technical feasibility of things that we were going after. This is really hard. I think this is probably one of designers' weakest trends that I've seen, is that we often are more artistic. We like to get behind the screen, and that's where we really shine. And the interpersonal pitching and understanding business, communicating is really hard to learn. I don't really have any good advice of how to learn that, like by just failing through it, because I was bad at it as well. Even this, like presenting and talking, is really hard for me. This is another big thing, like relationships are oxygen, so you need to invest in them. I soon realized that if you treat everyone like an enemy that you're fighting with, you're not going to get anywhere, even if you're a good designer. The more that I could realize that the people that I was negotiating with and working with inside that company were relationships I needed to invest in more than the people that I did get along with, like the design people I was with, because they're the ones that are going to help you out, that are going to come your way, or let something go in your benefit. And this could be buying booze for people. This can be settling on an argument and agreeing with them on and losing your side. But this will get you very far, even past jobs. The industry is small, so never burn a bridge. Invest in relationships. And then lastly, enjoy the journey. Especially if you want to get into software or hardcore branding, anything that you do that's significant is going to take a long ass time. And so you better enjoy that. You better enjoy the long 1.5 years of grinding, because shipping and actually launching anything is truly a marathon. We get instant gratification of being able to produce things out of nothing, out of vapor. But anything that's significant has a lot more to it than just the design. So learn to enjoy the journey, the good and bad, because it's always going to be there. So Design Inc., this is a logo you probably haven't seen. But this is a startup I met today. I'm the head of design there. We're a small team of 3 engineers, our founder and myself. And essentially we're a platform for hiring designers and for designers to be able to meet new clients. It's been interesting here because I have a little bit of insight of how to work with designers and clients, but I've never been the one in charge, or at least the one that was responsible. And so there's been a lot that I've learned in the last year being at this startup. But it's been just about a year. We've built essentially 3 companies and iterated a lot. This is some screenshots from our first version, where we had these menu items where you could say a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 branding package are these things and they cost this much. We're now in a model where we're introducing designers to clients and opportunities, and so it's a whole different model, but it's been fun to see that evolution. This is currently kind of what we have today, where you'll see a feed of different requests of jobs that people need filled, as far as you need a logo, you need a website. As a designer, you can go in there, look at what they need, pitch them a budget and a timeline, and then you can kind of see who bids against you, where you fall, and hopefully get hired. So this is essentially what Design Inc. is today. Really beyond this UI, our big job is generating demand and finding people that need designers, and then building and curating a community of creatives that are awesome and on task and doing the job as we expect them to do. So there's always this back and forth of building a community and then building a business. And that's probably been the hardest part. This stuff is easy. This is just the UI stuff. It's the people things are usually the hardest. So for this one, I'm saying designing with clients, because the client is kind of the design community. The client is kind of the jobs that are coming in. And I think research is doing research and asking questions. This is one of my favorite phrases that I made up. I don't ever quote myself, but if I had to, my quote would be your bias is bullshit. I've learned so much working in these different contexts and realizing that what I bring to the table and what I understand in my perspective is so limited. You're often not the person you're designing for. Your perspective is often not as broad as it needs to be as you approach different things. And this is much larger than software. I think branding is very much the same way. If you're designing a brand for a kid's toy, you really need to put yourself in that perspective. And for us, knowing how people work, we had a perception of how we thought designers worked and how clients worked. It's much more diverse than we thought. And honestly, a lot of designers aren't as good as we thought. It's very easy to have a perception of people. And then once we, introduce them to people and let them start working, we're like, hey, bro, like, you need to step it up. Like, or hey, you got to email. you can't leave your client hanging. And so we've learned a lot through Slack. Honestly, we have a Slack group with all our designers. We have a very transparent conversation with them there. And then we're constantly reaching out to our clients that are, hiring designers and asking them what's working, what's not working. If we weren't doing that and we were just going off our own intuition, we would have already failed. And this takes many forms. We can talk about that if you guys have questions of like what research is, but it could be something as simple as a conversation with, your mom and you're giving her like a design over coffee, or a full-on qualitative study over 4 days. And this is like just good rules in general, but like, like be a good human, do what you say, and just give a shit. This seems easy, but it's really not. I think, instinctively we lean towards like self-preservation and manipulation and looking out for ourselves. But the more that you can like invest in others and be honest, like this is huge. I give this example. I took a freelance project from our platform. It was a simple dashboard for a car app, and it was like 4 or 5 screens. They only had a budget of $1,500 bucks. I was like, I could knock that out, no problem. And I gave them my regular rate, which on Design Inc. is $200 an hour. I can do that because I worked for Google, and really that's the only reason I can charge that as a freelancer, because I don't really have a solid freelance business. But like, yeah, I worked for Google, I'm $200 an hour, and you have to really deliver at that rate. But like they wanted a dashboard and material design. I was like, look, I've done that. I've worked with those people. I can knock this out. But they had a maximum budget of $1,500 bucks, and so I was like, oh, that gives me so many hours to do this. Actually, they came down. They're like, hey, we only have $1,500 bucks. Can you drop your rate to $150? And I was like, sure, I'll do them a solid. I'll drop $50 an hour, and I'll just do it, in 10 hours. I think I spent 25 hours on the job. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't do enough research. I didn't understand their problem enough. And so I promised something, and I didn't then just charge them, $4,000. I just bid it, and I worked on vacation in Hawaii and still only got paid $1,500 bucks because that's what I said I would do. It's not fun, but they reached out to me today. They want us to do some more work. They have a bigger budget, and that's keeping that relationship. So I think being honest and doing what you say you're going to do is really important. And then just like care what you're doing. Don't be shady. No one likes shady people. This is probably what I've told every person. I did open office hours through my vlog on YouTube. Talked to like 8 or 12 different designers. Almost all of them were in their first 5 years of design or coming out of school. And everyone had their own specific ambition, whether it was getting out of print and going to digital, or trying new things as far as like I only do publication stuff. I really want to get into branding, or I'm living in Wisconsin but I want to move to the Bay Area. Everything, like every one of those questions, like, well, how do I do it? I always tell them like, well, if you do something, something's going to happen. So like contemplating and trying to figure out what you should be doing will not get you anywhere. You should be asking questions, but like you shouldn't be waiting. So ask questions and do stuff, because if you're not doing anything, you're really stalling. I think people want permission to make mistakes, and you kind of have to be curious and get after it. And this is a very like dumb, simple statement, but if it's like, hey, I want to learn how to design an app, what should I do? Like, well, you should start designing an app. Well, I don't know how. Well, Google it. Like that. I learned half my software from like German kids on YouTube. Like they're just really like 12-year-old kids that know how to use Final Cut Pro. I'd love to hear any questions, answer anything that you guys want to have answered, or I'm open book. We can talk about anything. Also, tutorials coming out. I just recorded 3 of them. Process of, I think delivering details is what I called it. 3 videos of just kind of my process. I'm going to write up a big Medium post kind of summarizing all of these videos and one like end-to-end overview of how I go from like a whiteboard to actual production code, and polish in QA. So look out for that in the next month. It'll be coming out. If you don't already, follow me on Twitter. I'll be posting all my updates there. Subscribing to the YouTube. Till then, enjoy it. Thanks for watching.